Hello, good afternoon, good morning. This is the AWS Cluster API meeting as part of the Kubernetes SIG Cluster Lifecycle. Please be aware that we are operating under the CNCF Code of Conduct, so be excellent to each other. If you want to raise a point, please use the raise hand feature and possibly someone else will notice for me because I can't see the participant screen right now.
I can help you.
Thanks. So to get started, yeah, please, if you've got any agenda items, don't have any PSAs right now. I think we released version 0.60 the other week, and we're working on the 0.61. So I guess we'll go on to the group topic. So Siddharth, do you want to talk about the AMI build automation?
Hello, yeah. So can I share my screen? No. Okay. I wanna talk about start discussion around how to automate our AMI build and publish process. So first of all, we wanna automate how we build and publish AMIs when a new Kubernetes version comes up, or there is a new OS patch comes that we wanna include in the AMI image. And secondly, we wanna move our AMIs to CNCF on AWS. So actually, this doc, in this talk, I'm trying to collect some ideas on how to go about it. So can you scroll down a bit? A bit more. Yeah. So here you see a file that, so there are a lot of pieces that we need to decide what to automate and how to automate. But I have a possible workflow that may work where we have a single YAML file. Can you go up a little bit?
Sorry, I can't figure out how to stop sharing. So how do I upward?
Okay, yeah, it's good. So here, this is my proposed format for the YAML file that may trigger auto build and publish jobs. So here you see we have some default parameters we can use for each Kubernetes version, or we can specify whatever we want. For example, if there's an error in one of the AMIs, I think we need to wait until next image builder version. So with this YAML format, we will be able to trigger builds on error as well. The only thing I think we are not covering here is if a new OS patch comes, I don't know how to like trigger using this file. The only thing is missing is that part, I think. I mean, feel free to like add any comments, ideas in this document. Main concern is about how we are gonna keep our secrets and access keys. So I spoke with Nikita. She's heavily involved with the release team. She suggested to store our secrets in Kubernetes Infra Pro build trusted pro cluster. She said that only a few people can reach that cluster, and if we share our credentials with them, we will be able to securely access them. So this is one way to access secrets. And about how, so if you can go down a bit, I think it is on the 4th page. There's a possible workflow there titled Some More Brainstorming. Okay, yeah. So here you see a possible workflow. So we are gonna have a Kappa bot similar to Kubernetes release bot, and the YAML file that is above, we are gonna create that. When a new Kubernetes release is cut, there are two ways that we can detect it. We can either actually, I am trying to contact with release team, because when a new Kubernetes release is cut, a PR is automatically created. Maybe we can do that automation in the Kubernetes release side, or we will need to have a periodic job that checks if there's a new release or not. After knowing that there's a new release, our Kappa bot can create a PR that adds that new release to the YAML file, and we can have a pre-submit job that is triggered and detects only the change part. I think this is important because we do not want to build all existing Kubernetes release AMIs when there's a single change. So, and then once the AMIs are built, we can run some conformance tests. And after that PR is merged, I think this part can be manual. We may want to check if images are successful and check maybe test results. And then a post-submit job needs to rebuild all those images, because there's no way we can, I couldn't find a way to save after a pre-submit job builds the images. I don't know where to save them to reuse them in a post-submit job. So I think probably we are gonna need to rebuild them. And after that post-submit job, we'll just push the AMIs. That's the workflow I'm thinking. So any feedback is welcome.
Thanks for looking into this, Sadaf. I would raise my hand, but I'm a co-host, so I can't. One just quick comment on building versus pushing AMIs. I think there's no distinction between the two, isn't that right? Like it's either an AMI or it's not.
We could do a promotion process actually, so which would involve creating a new AMI from the same EBS volume snapshot. So we could sort of use a tag that Kappa does not pick up by default. So like some way to mark it as a staging AMI. And then once we've passed the test on it, we can create a new AMI from the same snapshot. So we actually do have then a proper promotion rather than just sort of rebuilding the image again as a production version.
Gotcha. So Sadaf, what are the next steps that you're looking for? Do you need folks to review this and make comments?
Yes, that would be great. Also, if there are any other ways that I didn't add into this file, like how to store secrets or access keys securely, would help. Also, if we want to, for example, combine pre-submit and post-submit together, and if there are any other pieces that we want to automate, I mean, I'd love to hear thoughts about those.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yep. I don't see any other hands, so I'll move back to the notes. Okay, next one we got is Richard on AWS IAM Authenticator config map reconciliation.
Yeah, it's really just for, I guess, some advice whether the way I was thinking of doing this is correct. Basically, we're not rendering in the config map that's required by AWS IAM Authenticator at the moment. So that is essentially stopping the nodes joining the cluster. So there's also an open ticket to allow, in a declarative way, to add other mappings in there in the future as well. So looking at how to do this. So one option is essentially a controller that watches for the control plane and the machines when they get to essentially a certain state, and then render out the config map on every reconciliation loop if it's changed. Or I split the functionality into a package and call that across the multiple controllers. So the control plane controller, machine, AWS machine, and I guess in the machine pool as well. So really, it's just whether separate controller is a good approach just to render out that, because at the moment it's rendering the EKS functionality pretty much useless unless you manually add that config map.
Okay, so I'm not super familiar with the AWS IAM Authenticator. There's a comment from Peter R in chat that the AWS IAM Authenticator supports CRD, so the config map doesn't have to be required for the authenticated pods to start.
Ah, cool. Perfect. I can just push that in then. Cool. That's even better.
All right, great.
Nadir, you might want to switch your screen share back to the meeting notes. Thank you.
You're muted, Nadir.
Yeah, sorry about that. So if there's nothing else, we'll move on to the issue triage. We'll just go through the open issues right now. Okay, so the first one we've got is error adding node with EKS flavor. Richard?
Yeah, that's just, there's multiple issues here. So the nodes policy doesn't have required permissions to describe cluster, and then this issue with the AWS IAM Authenticator not having permissions for the nodes to join. So that's basically it.
All right, so do you want to, so I take it this is for 061 then?
Yeah,
6.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Same go for 1956, 1958?
Yeah, that's basically, it doesn't work. If you enable Bastion, you can't connect to the nodes that are created. So I'll put a fix in for that, but yeah, for definitely 061.
Next one we've got is node EC2 instance isn't available via SSM.
Yeah, me again. Just I've not actually started looking into this, but obviously I was following the docs saying how to connect to the nodes instances, and it's not available for the nodes we're using for EKS.
Okay. Yeah, I think we did enable it for EC2. So yeah, do you want to get this in 061, or is it as sort of optional? It can go.
I think probably optional, as long as we got the Bastion fix in there, so people can get to it via Bastion host.
Okay. So I'll put it 06x, and if it gets done, it gets done.
Yeah, cool.
I saw some discussion about this. So changing the user kube config name.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. It's obviously because we introduced the second kube config. So there is another issue that's been opened in CAPI to sort of formally discuss how you can have a CAPI focused kube config and one separate one for the users.
Okay. So I take this. So I guess this requires CAPI changes. So this probably can't be a 061
No,
immediate.
no.
Okay. done that wrong. E2E tests for AWS machine pools. So this is me. So I broke this out of the existing machine pool implementation. So machine pools are for those who aren't aware, for sort of auto scaling group constructs essentially. So the AWS machine pool implementation will add support for scaling groups. We probably do want to do some E2E tests around that. It's probably I don't think we've actually got the machine pool stuff in completely, so it's probably not for 061, but probably do want to do this ASAP. So I'll put in 06X, and then what I think we should do is after the 061 release, we do a planning meeting again, because we didn't do much planning in detail past 061 anyway. So we should probably do that again and just see where we want to put stuff in.
Nadir, just real quick with the previous one about the keep configs, I moved it to next because it's a contract change upstream in CAPI.
Okay, fair enough. This one is in progress, 1935. So for people in air-gapped environments, the resource tagging API for some reason is not available. And that blocked ELB deletion. There is a PR for that. So it's good to go in for V061, I think. The next one is, there is actually an open PR for that. So we are going to have cluster API aws.sigs.cates.io as a website. The DNS is all set up, so it's almost all ready to go. So I'll leave it in for 061, and we can look at it again, I guess. This VPN gateway DXG attachment, VGW routes. Someone want to speak to that one? Sam, I believe this is yours.
It is indeed. And nice seeing faces for the first time. Historic context here just is in our environment, we're trying to avoid having to switch over to like BYO VPC as long as we possibly can, because part of the attraction of the whole setup for us. And one requirement that we have is nearly all Kubernetes clusters that we build eventually do get hooked up to a direct connect gateway, which is routed back to our data centers. And so understand there are things that just are not automatable, right? Like accepting the VIFs, for example, we have external dependencies in our networking team, and so on and so forth. But that is a specific thing that has to happen for each VPC, and that is creating a VPN gateway, attaching it to the VPC, associating it with the VPC, and then attaching it to a direct connect gateway. And it is a lengthy process. The last associating with the VPC doesn't take, is even faster than creating a NAC gateway. Attaching to the direct connect gateway is about a 20-minute process. So we have code in a fork that does all of that. I obviously didn't want to block a reconcile loop for 20 minutes. So the way I implemented it on our side is essentially have a function that checks the state, that returns a specific error type, which the caller can then catch and basically return an appropriate reconcile result. So it's just that every 15 seconds, I think is the default right now, it'll reconcile the AWS cluster and go, oh, it's not finished attaching yet, come back later, just so we're not completely blocking a thread. But so that's something we have in a fork. And I was wondering whether there's an opportunity to kind of clean this up and bring it upstream. Again, the reason it's up for discussion is I'm fully aware there's a larger discussion, right, around how are we going to accommodate all these different network topologies that people want. I found the open ticket around a potential move all the way over to ACK, which I guess is probably a bit out because ACK doesn't support all the things we needed to support yet. So that's why it's in here. Obviously more than happy to keep maintaining our fork, but also more than happy to make this upstream. Makes our life easier, obviously, and if someone else benefits, it would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd love to unfork people as much as possible. Yeah, so the so the concern here is just the increase in complexity with the AWS cluster spec versus possibly going to more of a set of CRDs representing the various VPC constructs, which would then be relevant on using AWS Controller Kubernetes, which needs all the relevant bits added to it to do that support, which is obviously a long way off.
So move to CR. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no. So I think in your implementation, this will be extending the existing AWS cluster object, adding in the appropriate reconciliation, and making it non-blocking, which is not what we're doing right now. It's probably what we should be doing, but the existing code is currently blocking. So I think this is a question for other people. Is this? Yeah, I don't have an opinion. Those are the things that we have talked about, but I don't feel massively strongly either way.
So it's a move towards more of a CRD model for different network topologies. Is that kind of what's Lucy discussed as part of 1484? Is that kind of?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
But the consensus was that we wouldn't do that without relying on AWS Controller for Kubernetes.
The weird thing with the spec is, right, that my assumption would have been that the direct connect gateway is still something the user would have created before coming to Kappa. So we would just hold a reference to it or a filter attributes to find it rather than actually creating it. So it would not include creation of a direct connect gateway.
Okay. Yeah, I think this. I'm okay with it. If other people are, it's probably not a 061 thing, so we can put in 06x. You can see, and you can open up a PR and we can start reviewing what it looks like.
Yeah. Remind me, the 06 branch is that basically V1 Alpha 4?
No, not necessarily. So I think we will probably call V1 Alpha 4 070, and 06x will continue to be on V1 Alpha 3.
Okay. Now, if you say there's a likelihood of this being accepted, I'm more than happy to start on a PR.
All right, cool. Okay. Secret backend support. So this is in progress right now. I think it's yeah. So for those who aren't aware, in certain environments, yeah, basically if you're in AWS secret region, you can't use AWS Sequence Manager. So there's a PR coming in to add support to use AWS Sequence Manager parameter store, whatever the AWS acronym is, which was actually one of the options we were considering. And I think it's been done in such a way that S3 could be added as well. So that's in progress. We'll try and get it in for 061. I think it's in pretty good shape. It's been a couple of comments. Clean up code across EKS controllers. I think I must have just pulled this out of a comment. Yes, I did, but I can't massively speak to it. Richard?
Yeah, there's just a small amount of duplication between the managed control plane and the Bootstrap side of things. So things like checking the version number or normalizing the version number of Kubernetes for EKS and stuff like that. So good to, I guess it would be good to do it, but it's not breaking anything at the moment.
All right, I'll put in 06x then, and we can see gets done. It gets done. Spot instance interruption notice support. I think this is again.
I think we can. Sorry to interrupt. I think we can probably close this one if you look at my comment that I just added at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
So there's a cluster API proposal for handling node termination regardless of the infrastructure provider. And there's been some active discussion this morning on a related pull request in CAPI about syncing node labels from machines to nodes for the specific purpose of labeling them so that we can get the termination handler pod installed via a daemon set. So I don't think we're going to end up necessarily needing any immediate changes in an infrastructure provider. And if you look at, let me go find it. It's CAPI pull request 3668 is where the conversation is happening. I'd encourage y'all to read that if you're interested, but I think we're probably going to be able to close the Kappa specific request for spot termination detection, or at least come back to it later after we resolve what we're going to do in CAPI.
I'll just put a little note on that. I'll close it in a bit. Yeah.
I mean, we could put it in the next milestone and come back to it later.
Yeah, I'll do that. Add E2E test coverage for spot instances. So Andy, you open this one up.
Yep, just looking for some E2E coverage since we do have support for spot instances. So I don't know if it's a good first issue. It's definitely help wanted. And whenever we can get around to it. So 06X is fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll put in 06X and then I suspect we'll want it for 062. Oh yeah, this one I opened is, so I noticed in EKS Bootstrap scripts that there's some logic to set cube reserved across EKS and EC2 node types. I think there was also based off our discussions last week in CAPI around cluster autoscaler support around infrastructure provider providing some more of this sort of information and setting some of this information up. So cluster autoscaler's got better knowledge around scaling. So it's not urgent in any way. So I think I might put this in next, unless anyone feels strongly about it. Take that as a no. E2E Conformance test file on macOS. I'm going to close that because I have a PR that fixes it in Cluster API. Well, it won't be fixed. Anyway, there's work in progress to get that fixed. I'll put in 061 because there's an upstream PR in Cluster API that makes it work, and then need to import that code into Kappa and it should be okay. So I'll put in 061. Support user data privacy beyond Cloud Init. So this is for the Kinrote folk who are working on Flatcar Linux support. It's really about how do we support secrets on anything beyond Cloud Init. I have not got any thoughts on this right now, and I think we might need to look at the Bootstrap provider contracts as well. So I'm going to stick this in next. We might have a workaround based on the other PR for SSM parameter store, but in terms of solving it long term, I think this might be a Cluster API v1 Alpha 4 thing. So
yeah, we've talked in the past about the possibility of creating some sort of agent or process that can run on the OS that's baked in via image builder into the AMIs, and that can have whatever code in it we want So we could potentially have our cloud init just call this agent, or have it, have it be a systemd unit that starts up at the right time, and then the agent can go do its thing. And if it needs to go and get the real Bootstrap data from the secrets manager, or it needs to go to S3 or something else, that could all be coded and baked into the image, and then we don't have to worry about the crazy boot hook thing that we're doing with cloud init. But it needs a design and brainstorming and proposal, and could be just for Kappa, could be something that's for Cappy as well. And maybe there's some pluggable aspects like, how do I get my Bootstrap data? Definitely not anything for 06 though.
Yeah. So I might have volunteered myself to write that proposal. So.
Well, and if anybody's interested, like, I can't say that we've done a lot of brainstorming beyond what I just described, but I think it'd be a fun thing to explore. So if anybody wants to play around with some ideas and get together and meet, just let us know.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Yeah, and this final one is kind of related. So I picked this out of the discussion around machine pools. So the spot instances thing does not use Sequence Manager, and because the launch template is fairly static for a long lifetime, so it's kind of a bit difficult to do all the Sequence Manager stuff. Yeah, so this is just about if there's something we can do short term to make ASGs secure. How do you stop token reuse? Is that even possible? What are the contracts we want to set around that? What do we want to say around the security of that? So I think, if anything, there's a documentation issue that we just need to make a statement, and then whatever improvements we can do about it. So I'm going to put it in 06X at least, so that we put documentation on the website around what security guarantees we have, and then probably it's going to be related to the previous issue next around providing a comprehensive solution to it, if that makes sense. All right, I think we've just gone through all the issues. Yeah, there we go. Done. We'll just take a quick look at the milestone. It's got 31 issues. So we may need to punt some of these for a bit. I can already see a few. So when we got, yeah, so this is the last meeting potentially before when we said we were going to do the 061 release. Do we still think we want to do 061 release at the end of the month, or do we want to delay it, or do we want to remove some of these things and do a release anyway? I think probably Richard, because I think a lot of these are bug fixes for EKS. How do you feel?
Yeah, it'd be good to get some of these in, just purely to make it more usable for people.
Okay, so I think I might go through these after this meeting. There's probably some bits which are on me, which can be moved out. We'll just see where we are, and maybe we meet later in the week. We just have a status check on these issues.
Sounds good.
All right. That's it. Is there any other issues that people want to raise, or any topics that people want to discuss? Otherwise, we can give you back 20 minutes of your time. All right. Thanks a lot, everyone. I will post the recording.
Sorry, Sam had his hand up.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I couldn't find the actual raise hand react, so I'm just doing it literally. A very tiny question. It's loosely related to the VPN gateway stuff. SSH security group. Is my understanding correct that right now there is no real way of changing the default SSH security group? It will always default to only allowing SSH from the Bastion security group. Reason I ask again, obviously again relevant in our setup, all the hosts that we create are internal only, nothing has a public IP address. And every single EC2 instance is directly routable, right, through our VPN or data center. So we would like to be able to adjust the SSH security group rule to allow SSH from like subnets, side ranges, and so on and so forth. It feels like right now it's hard-coded to only allow SSH from the Bastion, and we don't actually run a Bastion, right? We don't have to because everything's routable. I never logged an issue because I never thought it was, I don't know, I never thought it was feasible.
It probably is feasible. It's just how do you do the API bit to make it neat enough? Yeah, you're right. It is just Bastion only. It is Bastion only. It's a reasonable case. Just as a workaround, you can use SSM Session Manager as well. So if you don't want to use a Bastion, that should work. But if you really do want SSH, then create an issue, I think, and then we'll just see where it slots in.
Okay, will do. Yeah, it's just another thing that we currently hack in. But yeah, I will do.
All right, thanks.
Sorry.
That's no props. Anything else? Is anyone else wearing their hands, which I can't see right now?
Not at the moment. With the SSH thing, would the additional security groups option work on machines or not?
Oh, you mean the CNI rules section stuff? That's what it's
No,
labeled.
on AWS machine. Hold on, let me get it.
Yeah, that's right. So if you create your own AWS security group after the fact, you can stick it onto the additional security groups, and it will get your host will just have that added.
Yes, I could, but last I checked, the filter option doesn't work, and I think I logged an issue on this a while ago. There was a sec fault on that.
Yeah, because it was a mistake. The filter thing was a mistake.
Yes,
Copy and pasted the API. We had never done the implementation. It was never meant to work.
It creates a chicken and egg issue for me, right? Kappa makes the VPC, but then I would have to come out of band and make the security group, right? And I can't make the security group until the VPC exists.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think create an issue, Dan.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Thanks a lot, everyone. See you in 2 weeks.